Hello, my name's Mary, and I'm coming to you from the children's room at the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. And I'm here today to continue reading Lulu and the Dog from the Sea by Hilary McKay. The book was published in 2011 by Albert Whitman Company. Well, Lulu and her family are at a cottage by the sea, and Lulu is trying to befriend the dog from the sea who is roaming the sands and dunes. Tuesday was a day of gray skies and sudden showers. There's a cliff-top walk we really should try, said Lulu's father, getting out his map. Sam knew about maps and very long walks, and he went and hid behind the sofa. I know how he feels, said Lulu's mother, but she did not hide behind the sofa. She built a driftwood fire and settled down in front of it with her third vacation book. Behind the sofa, Sam found Mellie's kite box. A long, smooth stick fell out when he pushed it. Sam chewed it to pieces. The silvery driftwood burned with pale blue flames, and the room became warm. Lulu and Mellie and Lulu's father bumped away in the car. Sam thought it might be safe to come out from behind the sofa. He settled down in front of the fire with a second long stick from the box. "My kite struts!" shrieked Mellie the moment she walked through the door. When she'd calmed down a bit, Lulu's father explained that nothing in the world was easier to make than kite struts, and that he would do it in a moment, beautifully and perfectly. Better than the originals. Out of any old straight piece of washed-up driftwood they could find. After that, the whole family hunted for washed-up driftwood in straight enough pieces to make new struts for a kite. They hunted until it was too dark to see, but they didn't find any. And then they went sadly back to the cottage and ate omelets and chocolate cake to cheer themselves up. It was a rather dismal evening, despite the chocolate cake and the charm of the driftwood fire. Mellie put all her pieces of kite on the table. The seagull picture, and the chewed wood, and the tangled strings, and the plastic loops for threading who knew what through, since the instructions had been lost. And she said to Lulu, "You said you'd help." "I will help," said Lulu. "Well, think of something." An idea came to Lulu like a present from the sky. She told her mother, and her mother gave her a big, happy hug. She told her father, and he said she was a genius. She would have told Mellie, but Mellie covered her ears and said, don't tell me, in case it doesn't work." That night, the dog from the sea was waiting for Lulu. He ate omelet and toast and chocolate cake, a lot of dog food, and a large piece of cheese. More thorns and tangles were snipped from his fur. Once again, Mellie watched from the window, but this time he was much less nervous. "I think he might like me after all," whispered Mellie. "Of course he does," said Lulu. Chapter 5, Wednesday. They woke up on Wednesday to a day of bright sunshine. "I'm going shopping. I may be a while," said Lulu's mother, climbing into the car. "What kind of shopping?" asked Melly. "Secret shopping," said Lulu's mother, and to Lulu she whispered, "Operation Kite." Then she bumped away down the dusty road with Sam to keep her company. Lulu and Melly and Lulu's father headed for the beach. It was a much easier journey over the sand dunes without Sam and his beanbag. Lulu's father went swimming, and Lulu and Melly went to the kiddie pool. However, no one stayed in long because, as Lulu's father pointed out, the sea was very close to freezing, and if it froze over completely, they'd be stuck in the ice. Afterward, Lulu and Melly went off to play, while Lulu's father did some exercises to get rid of the numbness in his hands and feet. Lulu and Melly had not been playing for more than 5 minutes when a head with paper bag ears looked over the sand dunes. The dog from the sea had come to play too. At first he just played beside them. When Lulu and Melly raced after the frisbee, the dog from the sea raced after an invisible frisbee of his own. When they peered into rock pools, he peered into rock pools close by. When they paddled in the pools, which were much warmer than the sea, the dog paddled too, sneezing at the splashes. And then they got out 2 bottles of bubbles. The dog from the sea could not resist the bubbles. He raced to catch them, snapped at them in the air, and looked astonished when they vanished. He loved when Lulu and Melly laughed at him. His tail wagged, and his paper bag ears flapped, and he bounced like a dog on springs. When Lulu's mother arrived with Sam and his beanbag, and a thumbs-up sign for Lulu, and a hug for Melly, and a picnic, and a handful of dripping ice cream, the dog from the sea did not run away. He stayed and shared the picnic. He didn't come very close. He didn't quite trust Lulu's parents not to be secret dog catchers. But still, he stayed. If Sam had not been worn out by shopping, he would not have let this happen. But shopping had tired Sam completely. He lay down in his beanbag, closed his eyes so that he could not see the dog from the sea, with the frisbee as a plate, eating hot dogs and sandwiches and drinking water from Lulu's bucket. "Now," said Lulu's mother, when the picnic was all finished, "you'll never guess what I bought this morning, Melly." "What?" "A build-your-own-kite kit, just like the one you had," said Lulu's mother, triumphantly. "So now we have all the pieces and new strings with no knots and the proper instructions." "Oh," gasped Melly, hugging her. "Was that what you thought of, Lulu, last night?" "I told you I'd help," said Lulu proudly, and her father said, "Come on, back to the cottage, everyone, for Operation Kite." Operation Kite took Lulu's parents and Melly all afternoon, and except for the seagull picture on the front, it was a brand new kite. "It's the picture on the front that matters," said Melly cheerfully. Lulu did not help with the kite making. Instead, she spent the afternoon on the grassy patch outside the house, playing with the dog from the sea. It was very, very different from playing with Sam. If you threw a ball for Sam to fetch, he would try not to look unless you happened to be someone he loved very much. If you were, he would get slowly to his feet. Slowly, slowly, he would walk to the ball, pick it up in his teeth as if it tasted nasty, and then slowly bring it back to you, spit it out, and sigh. The sigh meant, "Please, don't do that again. I will not fetch it twice." Very different from the dog from the sea, who hurtled after balls so fast he skidded and rolled in somersaults, who could catch a frisbee in his teeth, who understood the game of tag and played it around and around the little white cottage. Lulu and the dog from the sea played so hard they didn't notice the cottage owner coming silently along the path to the cottage. The cottage owner liked to visit the cottage now and then to check that her guests were behaving as she thought they should behave. Just in case they weren't, Lulu wasn't. Halfway along the path, the cottage owner saw Lulu and the dog from the sea. She paused. She got off her bike. She glared. She puffed with fury. Then she turned around and rode off again as quickly as she could to call the dog catchers. The dog catchers came quickly with a cage, a long stick with a collar on the end, and a handful of dog biscuits, and the cottage owner following behind. It took Lulu a little while to understand what was happening. At first, she just stood and stared, her hand on the neck of the dog from the sea. Then she saw the van and the collar on a stick and the cottage owner, very eager, rushing up with her bike. Lulu screamed and clutched the dog from the sea. "That's right! Hang on to him!" screeched the cottage owner, while from inside the cottage ran Lulu's parents and Melly and Sam, barking, "Ruff, ruff, ruff!" "Stand still, please," begged one of the two dog catchers. Oof! That was the sound made when Melly flung herself headfirst into the nearest dog catcher's stomach. "Melly!" exclaimed Lulu's mother, grabbing her. "Ruff, ruff, ruff!" roared Sam as the dog catchers and the cottage owner and at the dog from the sea, trembling with fear under Lulu's hand. "Get that dog!" shouted the wicked witch of a cottage owner. "He's a thief! He's a menace! He needs to be locked up!" "No!" shouted Lulu, and she stopped holding on to the dog from the sea. She pushed him away and cried, "Run!" There had been two friends playing, blue-green grass and a blue and white sky. Now there was noise and trouble and anger, and the dog from the sea was gone, running for his life. That night Lulu waited and waited, but the dog from the sea did not come to visit the cottage. "Do you think he's thinking of me like I'm thinking of him?" she asked Melly. "Yes," said Melly. Much later in the night, Melly said, "I think you should stop climbing in and out of the window. I can't get to sleep." "No one could get to sleep," said Melly, "if they kept climbing in and out of a window." "Why aren't you sad?" demanded Lulu. "I am sad," said Melly. "About the poor dog from the sea, I'm sad. About how frightened he was, and how he looked at you to see if it was true, and how he saw that it was true and ran. I'm sad about that. I helped, didn't I? I charged that dog catcher as hard as I could. Yes, you did, admitted Lulu. But I'm not completely sad because I can't help feeling happy about my kite. I thought we'd never fix it, and now we have, and it's perfect. Don't you think that's good? You know I do, said Lulu. It was me that thought of the way to fix it. Tomorrow, said Melly, we can fly my kite on the beach. It will show for miles and miles. The dog from the sea will see it and come running. That was a happy thought. Lulu fell asleep thinking it. So that's where we're going to end today. We've been reading Lulu and the Dog from the Sea by Hilary McKay. It was published in 2011 by Albert Whitman Books. My name's Mary, and I'm coming to you from the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. And until next time, bye-bye.